You also have an interesting picture of the U.S. Army vehicle inventory, taken an aerial photograph.
Yes, that was part of one of my orders from the signal officer, was to figure out some way of enabling them to inventory the vehicles that were no longer in use, that were remaining after almost 6 months of beyond the end of the war, 6 or 8 months. And this, I decided, would probably be the easiest way to do it would be using an artillery liaison pilot to have him fly me over these airfields, which were the only areas where there was room enough to park large numbers of vehicles. And so they used a lot of Japanese airstrips for this purpose. And this photograph shows the airstrip virtually completely full of trucks, trailers, jeeps, and other vehicles. But of course the U.S. Army imported huge numbers of trucks into Japan, that is usually 1.5 ton trucks. So, and they were used, of course, to supply, travel around to supply all of the various units of the occupation army in Japan.
And what eventually happened to all of this equipment?
Well, we heard that a lot of it was loaded onto LSTs, taken out to deep water, and if it was a surplus LST, open the seacocks and let the whole thing sink. And the other thing that really disappointed me, because it involved also a lot of very expensive signal equipment, is seeing it piled up in a huge stack and set afire.
You mean like cameras or?
Cameras included, yes.
Why did they do that?
Because it was surplus equipment. And I suspect that the U.S. Army really had no use for it back in the United States, and it would be expensive to truck it all back home.
And they didn't want to give it to the Japanese?
Well, I think the Japanese probably got a great deal of it. But also they didn't want to bring back to the United States a lot of equipment that would could be used by Americans, and thus block continuing production of vehicles.